Hello, believers, non-believers, and everyone in between. You're listening to Stories with Nayara. The title of the story is The Woman Who Had Two Navels. This podcast is about love, anger, insecurities, and sufferings that manifest in the realities of life, making the flow of the story more provocative and appealing to the audience. I am Nayara Rose Liomo. Now, get cozy and open your mind because it's story time. The story begins with Connie Escobar inquiring into Dr. Pepe Monson's little Hong Kong office, seeking for medical help regarding her imaginary two navels. She explained to the doctor about the hardship and frustration of not being accepted as normal because of her extraordinary physical trait. Dr. Pepe at first believed her, but was quickly corrected of the Connie's falsehood through her mother, Concha Vidal. Other characters get muddled up in the affair, notably Paco Teixeira. A married man, he left his wife and babies in Hong Kong to work in Manila for a while. During his stay, he became very intimate with Concha Vidal, who seems to have had a special interest in fine young men. This intimacy was never physical. However, before his sudden departure from Manila, he caught himself nearly raping Connie in the heat of confusion. Connie had entertained Paco shortly after finding out her husband's horrid secret about his unusual relationship with her mother. Eventually, Connie finds back her will to live in the midst of a gloomy world, primarily through revelations of truth contributed by Pepe and Father Tony, and through a near-death encounter with her car crashing down a cliff. She decides to run off with Paco to Macau to start a new life. Tragically, however, her mother and her husband still thinks she had perished, and even more tragically ends their lives together. Macho walked into the room of grieving Concha Vidal, shooting her several times and eventually shooting himself too. In the midst of all the madness, another story is quietly told of the father of Pepe and Troy, Dr. Monson. The old aging Dr. Monson lived in this dream world, escaping the reality, what he called a horrible world of crabs and dust, with his opium to stimulate the fantasy. He had exiled himself from the American-controlled Philippines as a stubborn nationalist who pledged never to return until his homeland was free again, thus setting the story in Hong Kong with his sons never to have stepped on their native land. When he finally did return to his free country, he was disappointed by the destruction of his expectations, miserably going back to Hong Kong to live a vegetable. It was only his deathbed did he realize the foolishness of his fantasy, experiencing the brief but true of having his sons as shining ornaments in the midst of the dust and crabs. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button. This podcast is made possibly by listeners like you. Thank you for your support.